morning, everyone. So we all like to talk about big ideas, and we like to talk about success. So raise your hand if sometime in your life you'd like to be successful. Good, your parents would like that. Raise your hand if sometime you want to have a big idea. Raise your hand if sometime you want to fail. Good, I'm glad somebody raised their hand. That's the thing, if you want to have a big idea and you want to be successful, you're going to have to fail. And you're going to fail multiple times, and that's all right. It's just what you do with that failure is what matters. So often in our society nowadays, it's so risk adverse that we don't want to fail. We're scared to fail. We're scared of what's going to happen when we fail. And with failure comes emotions that bury that failure. And when we bury that failure, we can't learn from that failure. Here's a perfect example. This is me as a kid. Those sweet socks. When I was about that age, I loved to read, and I remember learning to read and loving the fact that I could read. A year or so later, my teacher, at the time, loved to have everybody read out loud, paragraph by paragraph. And I was the scared child who would count out my peers and then count the paragraphs that I had, find my paragraph, and read it over and over and over again until I memorized it. Because I was scared to fail. So one day, I got caught daydreaming, didn't count my paragraphs, I had to read it cold, I messed up. I messed up on the word because. Did I know the word because? Of course I did. But for that split second, I didn't. All the kids laughed, and the teacher didn't do much. Every vocabulary or spelling list that I had that year, because was at the top of that spelling list. The teacher didn't help me learn from my mistake and from my failure. I buried it with emotions, and I never learned. Still to this day as an adult, when I write the word because, I still have to take an extra second or two to write it. You know what I also hate to do? Read in public. With failing comes anxiety. Too often nowadays we're giving too little time for students to learn the material, and we're giving them tests and expecting them to get it right the first time. Do you know 1 in every 10 students is diagnosed with an anxiety disorder? There's even more than that aren't diagnosed. So in my room, I have something that we call failing successfully. And that means you're allowed to fail as many times as you want. But Miss Muriel and I will make sure that you learn from every failure that you make until you are successful. So, when we thought up this experiment with the boxes, we thought we'd had the best idea ever, and we were going to make kids more creative and more innovative by taking all their toys away and giving them raw material to play with. At first, all the boys loved it. Girls wouldn't even touch it. And we thought that for some reason, the boys are being more creative than the girls. After talking to a professor at Berkeley, I realized that boys might possibly have an innate sense of spatial reasoning that girls don't. So, the boys continue to play with their boxes, they continue to create and innovate, and the girls continue to fail. And we supported them in their failures. And as they failed, all their parents, all the moms were coming into me saying, "Why are you doing this?" I had to explain why the girls were coming in, flopping on their faces, crying, and I had to explain to the moms why I took away their baby dolls. I think the biggest thing about this experiment was not that we were making kids creative, but we were giving kids an opportunity to fail. So, as the experiment went on and on, the girls became just as creative as the boys, and just as innovative. So, If we can teach kids it's all right to be uncomfortable, we can teach them to think big. If we can teach them that it's all right to fail, we can teach them to think big. So as you're having your success, and as you're having your big thoughts and ideas, remember you're going to fail, and that's all right. But when you do, make sure you're failing successfully. Thank you.